So you're starting to get ready finally for that dream holiday that you have been waiting for ages. Maybe you're watching this video writing your packing list, or maybe you've started packing already, who knows. But we all know that that fiddle leaf fig over in that corner is already judging you because you're thinking about leaving it for a while. What if I told you that there's actually 4 dead simple hacks to keep them thriving and you don't need any neighbours to check in on your plants while you're away? Well, stick around, I'll show you the 4 methods because these are what have saved my 300 plus collection when I've been travelling. Now, before you start setting up these methods, a bit of prep with your plants before you go away makes all the difference, I promise you. And a lot of people actually skip this first prep step and then wonder why their plants aren't very happy when they return. So first thing you need to remember, not all plants need these hacks. If you've got really drought tolerant plants like succulents, snake plants, just water them, give them a good drink before you go, and honestly they will be fine for 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks depending on the weather you've got. But if you've got more fussy plants, as we call them, the ones that love a lot of moisture and don't like to dry out, calatheas, ferns, peace lilies I've put there, then your max time away is probably maybe only 4 days. So that equals what? A long weekend. So just know your plants and their limits beforehand and group them together through these methods as you go. You'll see what I mean as we get on. So if you're only going for a short while, I don't really think you need to fuss, to be honest. Give your plants big water and head off without a worry. But if you are going to go away for 2 to 3 weeks or longer, you need the methods and you need to do this prep first. First thing I want you to do is grab all of the same kind of plants and group them together by watering type. So put all the thirsty ones together, put the drought tolerant ones a little bit separately. Try using your kitchen or your dining room table if it's easier, just put them all in one spot because honestly it helps you manage them before you go, but also they will benefit from being closer together, especially the plants that love a little bit more moisture and a little bit more humidity. So group them together for your ease as well as for their benefit. Step 2, I want you to water all of your plants absolutely thoroughly. This is one of those times where you might want to grab those plants and move them to the sink or the bathroom and get the water to run through properly. You want to drench that soil, make sure every little bit of that soil has got water. Do not do this the morning you leave though. Do this at least 1 to 2, even 3 days before because you want those plants to drain properly and you want to leave that soil damp but not soaking wet. 4th thing, I want you to clean your plant as much as possible. So that means chop any brown dead leaves off or the ones that you just don't want that's not aesthetically pleasing. If you've got a little bit of a brown edge or half the leaf is brown, you can chop that off too. If you've got less leaves on the plant, it just means that there's less water demand for that plant. So they'll last a little bit longer with the care that you're going to give them. Plus, if you come back and you see half the leaf brown again, then you'll know there's something really weird going with that plant and you can give it some extra care when you get back. And finally, one step I really do recommend for longer trips is wipe your leaves down, get them clean, grab your neem oil spray. I love microfiber gloves because they really get into the nooks and the crevices and textured leaves they're really good for, but just clean all of that grime and dust off the leaves so they can really get a lot of energy from that light that's coming in while you're away. Step 5, while you're there cleaning your leaves, do a check for pests. Trust me, you do not want a thrips party while you're sipping cocktails on a beach. It's not good to come back to, trust me on that one. And then finally, depending on where your plant is sitting in the house, if it's near a window, adjust it depending on the season you're in. So if it's too cold, you want to bring it back from any drafts or any really cold snaps that are touching the window. So if it's too hot like here, if you're a local Aussie like me, and it's going to be really hot, it's going to be 39 degrees Celsius this Saturday here. Oh, that is hot. So again, you might want to draw the blinds or grab some sheer curtains, especially while you're away, and just protect those plants. Move them away from the window. If it's a little bit less light, that's fine for a couple of weeks. So you can always give them more light when they get back. But if you've got too much light or too much cold shock, your plants will not be happy. The biggest mistake you can do in this prep part is do not overwater your plants before you leave. As in watering the day before and the morning you leave, just don't do it. Honestly, that is just root rot waiting to happen when you come back. Right, that's the prep done. Now, if you do need some extra help, as I said, there's 4 methods that a lot of people use, and most of these methods just use the same kind of principle really, and that's working with capillary action. The whole point is water will move through some kind of porous material into the soil. I'm going to give you some things that you can use in a second, so bear with me, but what changes in these 4 methods is how you'll set each one up for the scale of your collection. And the 4th method that I'm going to show you is actually the one that I use the most when I travel, so stick around for that one. Okay, let's start simple by using just singular bottles, water bottles, wine bottles, that kind of thing. You've probably seen this around, but I've found that the different types of methods using a single bottle have different speeds. I'll explain what I mean. The first one is you can use something like these terracotta spikes, and you basically put it into the soil. You want to soak it first, soak it for a couple of hours, and then you want to push it all the way. You want to push it lower. So basically the top part is almost in line with the soil as far as you can. And then all you're going to do is grab a water bottle. A wine bottle for my certain one works a lot better because it's got a longer top. But just grab a water bottle and then tip it upside down and pop it in, right? And then you leave it there. And what will happen is the terracotta will act like a porous material and it'll slowly seep out of the terracotta. Now I say slowly, but here's the thing I've found with these terracotta spikes. It's a lot faster than you think. If I use this bottle, honestly, if I tip it upside down, it's almost gone within a day, which will soak all of the soil. And it's great if you're plant shopping all weekend, but it's less great if you're sunbathing in Bali for 2 weeks. So for me, terracotta spikes are for a very short holiday if you want to go like that. You can just use a simple water bottle. All you need to do is put some holes in the top of the bottle and again, just put it straight into the soil. I'd put the soil up to there as long as it stays pretty stable. And again, with the lid touching the soil, it'll slowly seep out into the soil. The more holes you have, the faster it's going to drip. Now, here's the thing with all of these methods. Do not use it for plants that don't have drainage holes, or don't use it for plants that are just going to sit in like an outer decorative pot and just sit in a whole excess load of water. There's nowhere for that excess water to go if it's in a cachet pot, for example. And especially if you're going to be going away and you're using like a big 2-liter bottle on some small to medium plant, you're going to drown them. So just make sure that while you're doing this system, there is somewhere for that excess water to go. Right, that's for single plants, but what if you've got multiple plants? You don't want a lot of these in your house, that'll be just really annoying. So I'll go on to the next method and I'll show you how a lot of people use these to manage several plants at once. By the way, if you are finding these tips useful, I've got so many more tips coming inside Leafy Legends, my new YouTube membership. So come and join and be a legend. I know you are. Link is in the show notes below. All right, as I said, this next one uses the same capillary action, but now we're going to scale it up for multiple plants. Now, for this method, you need a cotton rope, a wicking rope, something that really soaks up water, some kind of braided fabric, or even yarn if you've got it. You've got wool or yarn, that's really porous. And you want some kind of jar to hold some water. Look, if you've got a lot of plants, go with a big vase, depending on what you need. This might suit maybe 3 or 4 plants. This might suit maybe 10 or 12. And then what you need to do is you need to somehow arrange your plants around the bottom of the jar. So the jar is going to need to be elevated so the physics action can work and the capillary action can work down into the plants. If it's down below, it's not going to work properly, trust me. So put it on top, put it on a riser, a shelf, some books, put this thing on a chair and the plants on the floor, whatever it is that you need to do, right? So you're going to fill that with water and then you're going to grab your wicking rope. I'm just going to soak this. And then you can put some of the rope into the jar and then you're going to put the other end into the plant. But you want a good 2, 3, maybe even 4 inches in the soil. The more the soil is touching the rope, the more the water will come through the rope and into the soil. And you want to try and get some of the rope down into the middle of the soil and then maybe just put the excess rope around on the top of the soil. So again, you're getting a lot of good contact from the wicking system to your potting mix. This method actually is really lovely for those types of trailing plants, pothos, philodendrons, string hearts, that kind of thing. Anything that appreciates more consistent moisture but hates what they call soggy feet or just hates sitting in water for too long. Quick warning on using any kind of wicking system though. I'm sorry to say, this will not work if you have cats in the house. I'm so sorry. They will destroy this thing, guaranteed. I do not care how well behaved Mr. Whiskers is. He will see that dangling rope as a personal challenge. You know what I'm talking about. So just be aware using this system if you've got lovely little kitties. The one thing though, the watch out here, if you do choose to do this method, pre-soak the wick before you put it into your plants. If it's bone dry, the capillary action itself won't start and the water won't travel automatically from the jar to the plant. It might even take up all the water just to get the rope a little bit damp. So this is a non-negotiable. Seriously, don't ask me how I know. Just make sure this is pre-soaked before you set up this method, before you leave. Now, if you're a frequent traveler, if you're a frequent flyer, or maybe you've got more than 20 plants and you don't want to DIY, I do want to mention that you can buy kits available. Now, this method actually costs a bit of money. It's up to you if you want to spend it. But if you do travel a lot and have a serious collection, I honestly think it's totally worth it. What this looks like basically is you've got a little reservoir that holds the water, just like a, tub or a jar or something. tubes that will go from the water to each plant, and then each plant will also get its own little dripper that you can adjust the flow rate in. So if you want more water coming out of the dripper or less, it's up to you. It's so easy to set up. You can fill up the water, set the drip speed, and walk away. Bish bosh bash, easy peasy, done for you. And these can go for a long time, at least 3 weeks. I've seen some even longer because they've got a big enough reservoir and they've got a slow drip, so they can last for a very long time, which is lovely. The one thing to watch out with this system is don't just overfill the reservoir, set it to full blast on the drip system and walk out the door, right? If you're going to buy a proper, quality drip system, just test the drip flow rates first for your plants. Seriously, if you don't, you'll come home to a swamp and some very unhappy plants if there's too much water gushing out. They are magic systems, but you need to use them the right way, relevant to the plants that you've got. Right, so we've got bottles, wicking systems, drip kits, and they're all solid options. But here's what I actually do for my plants when I travel. And it's the same wicking principle again, just scaled up even bigger. Well, big for my house. Anyway, I'm not a garden centre. Okay, when I'm away for 7+ days, I will group my moisture loving plants particularly together into my bathtub with a little bit of shallow water down the bottom. And yes, it works. And sometimes my plants look better when I come back than when I left, just because they've been sitting near a pool or in a pool while I've been gone. So they've kind of got a holiday the same as I have while I've been away. Anyway, for this method, you do need 3 things for this to work. You need drainage holes in every single pot you're going to use. You need some decent light in that bathroom, even if it's just a skylight. A little bit lower light for a few weeks is actually pretty good. It's not a bad thing. And you need ventilation in that room. Get some kind of airflow. If you need to, if you can, maybe crack a window ever so slightly or keep the door open for airflow in that bathroom. If it's really cold, don't open the window. Just make sure there's a little bit of airflow in the bathroom. Right, to set up your bathtub, you're going to start by adding water to the bathtub. You need to add about 1 inch, I've found. So what's that? About 5 centimetres, 4 or 5 centimetres. Just 1 inch to the bottom of your tub. It's actually enough for 3 to 4 weeks, I have found, for about, what do I have probably in there? 10, 12 plants, to be honest. The water stays at the very base of your pots because it's just a shallow amount. So the roots won't be fully submerged. They'll just take up enough water that they need over time. That's how you can avoid root rot in this situation. It's only a little bit, it's not submerged fully in water. The only thing to watch out, if your plant is seriously root bound, your plant may not take up enough water it needs, so just be wary of how root bound your plant is. But if your plant is happy and healthy, then 1 inch of water with about 10 to 12 plants in the bath, that works pretty well. Now, when it comes to the bathtub, there's a few different things you can actually do depending on how comfortable you are with it. If you've got a really chunky aerated potting mix like I do, or plants that absolutely love your moisture, like I talked about before, calatheas, ferns, peace lilies, then you can just place your pots straight into the tub floor in that inch of water. Honestly, your plants will love it. And again, as I said, it's not too deep. It's only going to be, about up to there. So your plants will be very safe. Trust me, they'll just take up the water they need and it's not submerged fully in water. If you're worried that the water is going to evaporate and you're only going to be left with water in half of the base, you might want to try adding an actual wet towel flat on the bottom, add your water and then place the pots on top of that because the towel will help evenly distribute the water across all of the bath. The other thing, the towel will also help distribute all of the water onto all of the different drainage holes on your pots. And then one final thing, if you're still really worried about the bath method, but you've got a lot of plants and maybe your plants are prone to root rot or something, but they still need the moisture, then grab that towel I mentioned before and then grab some risers, maybe even bricks, depending on how you want to treat your bathtub, and then put your bricks, then the towel on top of the bricks, and then fill your bathtub, and then the plant on top of the towel. So your plant is elevated a little bit from all that water. It's not constantly sitting in 1 inch of water for the first week or two, but it's still sitting on that towel again, and it's getting water to wick up in through all the drainage holes. So your plants are elevated, but they're still getting moisture through the towels. If you really want to, you can scrunch them up a little bit as well where the plants are, just so they touch all of the drainage holes, if that makes sense. Now, if you're going to use the bathtub and you've got trailing plants, I have a lot of them, like pothos or, philodendron training vines or something, just keep the excess leaves out of the water. Your pothos doesn't need a swim, it just needs a drink, which is why we're only putting in about 1 inch of water into the tub. This big bathtub method works fantastic for your moisture-loving tropicals. For me, when I travel, what I put in the bathtub are things like calatheas, marantas, ferns I've mentioned, peace lily I've mentioned, Calaleas, peperomias, my scindaptus, and I even put my philodendrons in because I found that they do love a drink and they'll just take up the water I need. Plus I do use a very aerated aroid soil, so that helps a lot. I try and think about the ones that are going to sulk if they're going to completely dry out while I'm away, and they're the ones I'll put in the bathtub. And remember, even for 3-week trips, don't use it for cacti, succulents, snake plants, ZZ plants, those drought tolerants. Don't put them in the bathtub. They don't need it. Just leave them be. They'll be happy for the holiday and you'll just treat them when you get back. And then once everything's done, you're back, you've moved the plants back to where they are, just give it a quick spray and wipe with some eco-friendly cleaner, and it takes under a minute, I promise you, and you will not have any staining of your bath. Now, if you've got more plants than the bathroom will take, use your extra space. Use a sink, use large bowls, use a kiddie pool in your lounge. I don't care what you do if you've got a lot of plants. Just make sure you've got a little bit of water sitting in the base and pop your plants in, choosing one of those methods similar to the bathtub. The biggest watch out for this is you have to have drainage holes in your pots to put them into this type of system. If your plants don't have a pot with drainage holes, the water's not going to seep in and you're not going to make a difference. So repot that plant first or use a different method or something if you don't have drainage holes. That's a must. Right, that's all of the methods done. We've got bottles, we've got wicking systems, drip kits, and the bathtub. But before you go ahead and start packing, let me just do a quick recap of what not to do, because these are the most important things. Just remember, don't overwater your plants before you leave. Don't use bottle drips and a cachet pot where the water can't flow out. Don't skip the pre-soaking of your wicks if you're going to use any kind of rope system. Don't overfill the drip reservoirs without testing, and don't put any succulents in the bathtub. They don't need it. Avoid these and I promise you, you are good to go. Honestly, your plants will be fine. A good enough setup is good enough. Don't go for perfection. And look, if you're still not sure, just remember this. Underwatering a plant is a lot easier to come back from than overwatering. So when in doubt, less is more in this situation. So there you go. Prep your plants, pick your method, avoid the mistakes, and go and have an incredible holiday. You deserve it. I'm going to. I deserve it. And your plants aren't going anywhere if you follow these tips. So which method are you going to be using? Have you tried one before? You're going to try the bottle drip system, a wicking rope, or are you going to set up a bathtub fortress like I do? Let me know in the comments below which one was your favorite. And if you want more plant tips and hacks like this, remember, join Leafy Legends, my new YouTube membership. I've got loads more where this came from, and the link is in the description down below. That is it for another video. Have a week full of leaves, love, and laughter. Safe travels on your holiday, my plant friend, and I will see you when you get back in this next video. See you later. Bye.